we don't know exactly what the level of support for the Islamic Republic is. I think it's under 5%. Okay, some people say 1%, but we don't know. However, whatever the level of support for the Islamic Republic is, the level of extremists is higher than that, because there are some people within Iran who don't support the Islamic Republic because it's not radical enough, it's not Islamic enough. So you have to take those into account as well. There are so many people within, well, not many, like it's not like they're not like they're still a small, very small minority. Like for example, I'm just going to make up numbers, right? For example, if the support for the Islamic Republic is 1%, then the radical crazy Muslims are 2%. Okay, because some people have stopped supporting the Islamic Republic because it's not Islamic enough. It's not. There are many people who have defected from the Islamic Republic because women in Iran are not wearing hijab and the regime is not doing anything about it. Right? There are many people. There are some people who have defected from the regime because they actually have, they were wise enough to see that their response to Israel during the 12-day war was pathetic. They're like, you're embarrassing us, right? There are some people who have defected from the Islamic Republic because they know that the Islamic Republic is talking to Trump, like they're lying when they're saying like, oh my god, like we're not actually talking, look, talk to the hand, talk to the hand, we're not going to talk directly to you, we're going to have like, because you killed Qasim Soleimani, they're like, okay, we're not children, you're actually talking to the killer of Qasim Soleimani. Like what, there's a, they say like nizam uskolamun karde, which means like the regime thinks we're retarded. So some of these radicals are actually not that retarded and they are upset with the Islamic Republic because they're like, okay, sure, this propaganda that you're working on works with some of your followers, but some of us really understand what's going on, and they're angry because they're saying this is not what we did the revolution for. And by the way, a lot of these people have a problem with the name Republic in the Islamic Republic, right? So they want to topple the Islamic Republic and just bring, what do they call it? Jamhuriya Islami, Hukumat Islami. So basically, Islamic government, because they understand the word republic for them is Western. The
Like an
parliament
imamate?
is Western.
They want an imamate?
Imamate, yeah, imamate, but that's not what they're calling it. They're calling it Hukumat Islami, which means Islamic rule. Imamat is what the Taliban calls it right now, right? So they want to get rid of the idea of a president. They don't want to get rid of the idea of like a parliament and everything. They're getting closer to, just like having Islam rule, right? So we have to take that into account as well. So your question is like, how do we deal with these people? But yeah, but Susie, you're right. It would be technically. I mean, it wouldn't be an, yeah. I mean, it's an imamat is supposed to be when the imam of your time is present, right? So, for example, if when Hussein is alive, he's the imam of our time. When Ali was alive, he's supposed to be the imam of our time. Right now, the Mahdi is supposed to be the imam of our time, right? And he's in hiding. So I don't know how you could have an imamat without the living imam present. But I'm pretty sure they will come up with creative ways to suggest that Khamenei is the, I don't know, could rule in his place or something to have an moment. But with regards to Leonard, you say, how do we deal with these people? I mean, this is depends on the type of radicals we're talking about, because a lot of these people are radicals, but they will just have toxic ideas but not become violent, right? Like we have to see what percentage of them are going to become security threats. So I think in a free Iran, we're going to have so much anti-Islamic. The most of the population is going to be so anti-Islamic that these people are going to, the people who have these Islamic views are going to find that this is really not their country anymore, right? So I don't know. I think we need to talk to an expert regarding what would happen if you were a Muslim who thought that the Islamic Republic represents you and Iran is a country for Shia Muslims, or if you were one of those who think that the Islamic Republic is not Islamic enough, if the Islamic Republic falls and now Iran becomes the Islamophobia capital of the whole world, and you're a citizen in this country, going around with your religious views, people look down on you. And imagine if you're going to the bank, people look at you funny because of the Islamic clothing that you're wearing. If people who are going to the mosque, people sing, I think it's going to get, it could potentially get really, really anti-Islamic, the environment in Iran, especially given the massacre that we had. I can imagine in Iran where people are being shamed for praying. I can imagine in Iran where people are going to be shamed for wearing a headscarf. I could imagine right now that a woman with hijab passing by and people looking at them like, still, you're still wearing a hijab after what happened. I can imagine that being the future of Iran. So you guys could tell me, like, what do you think happens to people that now feel like, okay, this, like, would they migrate out of Iran? Would they become isolated and more radicalized? What do you think will happen? I don't know what will happen. I think this is actually new territory for us. So before even education could get to these people regarding, like, oh, maybe Islam is not a good religion or not, I think we're going to see a lot of hatred and shaming against these type of people. I think a lot of people who are religious are going to not even express their religion, are not going to basically keep it to themselves. When it comes to the security threats, those ones just need to be like a like intelligence operation, anti-terrorism operation. I'm pretty sure we're going to have like a Shia terrorist group that is going to try to topple the new secular democratic regime to bring Islamic rule back. Some of them are going to be convinced that this is good. This is weird, but let me tell you why. Some of them are going to be happy that the Islamic Republic has fallen, because they're like, oh, this is exactly based on the prophecy, because the Mahdi is supposed to come back when there's only, how many was it? I think 114 people left in support of Mahdi. So they're gonna be like, oh my god, we're losing. This is great. That means the Mahdi is coming soon. So we're gonna keep fighting on the right side until the Mahdi comes back. But the fact that we're losing, some of them are going to see this as a sign of the Mahdi's return to be sooner. Some of them are going to see it that the opposite. So there's two views. One is that before Mahdi comes back, we're very weak and there's only a few of us left. And some people have the view, like, no, the Islamic Republic is going to be handing over an army to the Mahdi, so when he comes, he's ready. So some people are going to actually be encouraged by the fact that they're losing. Okay, so it's weird. But again, I don't know. Education and informing people about Islam is a long term thing. But when it comes to, I think, like, short term, we're going to see so many radical changes when it comes to anti Islamic views and shaming, and this becoming Islam becoming a taboo in many environments inside Iran, that those short term effects is going to be so much more observable than the long term effects of education. Sorry, BT, I went for too long.
No, no problem. I'm curious about the Mehdi. Are the Jews hiding behind trees and rocks before then or after?
Before then.
Okay, I
Before.
just have to make
Yeah.
sure. Maybe I should buy a few trees. Next, we have left-handed.
Left-handed.
So are Iranians familiar with kind of like the story of not Cyrus the Great, but Alexander the Great, just as much as Cyrus, or is it just mainly just Cyrus due to your history?
Well, Alexander the Great attacked Iran and he burned down Persepolis, so he's not a popular figure among Iranians.
Okay, so it's kind of like one of those grudges that never ends, like one of those blood feuds.
Yeah,
A lot of his
I've
ideas
seen.
are easier to translate in terms of capitalism. I'd have to dig into Cyrus, but I was just curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, he burned down Persepolis, so there's not that many people who like him in Iran.
Okay, all right, that's good to know. And the second question, really what I'm trying to get to the heart of is like in America, we've made so many mistakes that are kind of built into the systems that we have here. Talking about the woke stuff or the racism or anything like that. I'm talking about like rationalism is like this rationalistic mindset is what got us to where we are now. But now we're kind of hitting diminishing returns on innovation. And I think that there's a huge opportunity for Iran to kind of look at what America has hit a dead end and figure out, okay, here's how we can redesign like an improved version of what America has through the same values. So in technology, they call it like the leapfrogging effect, where you bring in all the latest infrastructure, and it's really easy to do that because there's nothing there that you have to destroy. And I think from a social level, from an organizational level, Iran's in that situation where like there's a huge opportunity for you guys to learn from our mistakes. I'm just a bit curious if are you guys
Right.
trying to like not compete with America, but kind of copy what we have now, or can we like look at like okay, here's some honest criticisms about what America could improve and what we can borrow that also supports our local traditions.
Yeah. So just let me just mention this, that America actually borrowed from Iran when it comes to so many of the values that made America great, right? The founding fathers of America referred to Cyrus the Great's tolerance and acceptance of multiple different people with different ways of life. They actually refer to it, right? They actually use it as their model. That is their model that the American founding fathers used to turn America into a land of opportunity that was open to all people around the world. So this is why they also consider Cyrus the Great's Cyrus Cylinder the first declaration of human rights in history, right? When it comes to the mistakes of America, America's mistakes is first of all, America is still growing, but the gap between America's productivity and growth is actually widening. So America, even if America makes mistakes, is still the land of opportunity and is still much ahead when it comes to productivity and contribution to the whole world, is ahead of every other country, and
I
it will
can
continue to
clarify a
be.
bit just because I know what you're saying, and you're right. It's like the momentum is what is has diminishing returns, and like the costs of improving innovation is with diminishing returns.
Usually the momentum slows a little bit right before it peaks again, right? And
That's
I
true
think
most of the time.
United States is going to also see another peak at some point, right? Pretty soon. It usually goes on really fast with a new industrial revolution, and then it slows down, and then it gets closer to the next industrial revolution, and then it peaks up again, right? Because of the technological advancements, right? It is usually when it steers away from the values that made it great. And the good thing about Iran is that Iranian people really do believe in, and this is not about America, this is about any society that abides by these values. And I actually have listed them. If you want, I can read them. Any society that abides by these values progresses faster. And the United States became the greatest country in the world because it was, it actually not only abides by these values, it actually sometimes created these values, right?
So, as a concrete example, for example, you can look at Berkshire Hathaway and the way that value investing is different from, say, day trading or most other kind of speculative
Wait,
investments.
wait. Okay, go on.
I wanted to give
But
you a
then
concrete kind of finance example, if, if that's preferable, because I'm not sure how that translates into culture.
all right, get to the point because you interrupted a point I was trying to make, but make your point fast so that I could then make my point.
Okay, so Berkshire Hathaway has completely been able to decentralize their decision making within their company, and that's something that other companies are not able to do. Everything has to be centralized. In America, we've had this silent war going on between the local government and federal government, where all of the incentives come from the federal government, and as a result, due to political pressure, there's this incentive for the federal government to accumulate power and to distribute incentives downward to control those local governments. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that we have is that bottom up growth is disincentivized by the way that the system is structured itself. But the way Berkshire Hathaway has done it, and he has a book about this, it's called Poor Charlie's Almanac, I think would be
All
like a
right,
better
let me.
approach.
I think we're getting off track. Okay, it's not a good idea to compare how a country operates to how a fund operates. Okay, a mutual fund or any other fund operates. These are completely different. That one is in an area of finance, the other one is the area of politics. These are not comparable. One cannot be used as a model for other. Okay, it's kind of like going into a shoe store to try to figure out how to operate a hospital. So that's not a good way of comparing things. When it comes to the balance between federal and states, I think actually America has shown that its model works very well because it basically, instead of being one experiment, it ended up being 50 different experiments. And the competition between the states has created the ability for any state, if any state moves away from the values that make America great, then all of a sudden the other states are competing with it. So it cannot move too far away from it because people have mobility to move between states. So no state can really fuck up too much, because if you fuck up too much, there's mobility between states because you're all American citizens, and the competition makes the states have to come back to the models that work, or else too many people are going to leave your state. It has been one of the reasons for its success because it has created a competitive, a Darwinian model between all of its states that has actually helped all of them grow very faster than other countries. And I'll just go through the what I was saying is that in Iran, the good thing about the Iranian people, which I think is the greatest resource of Iran, the greatest resource in Iran is not its oil, it's not its gas. The greatest resource of Iran is the Iranian people. And I say that not just because they're very educated and very motivated and they're very entrepreneurial and they're very patriotic. I say this because they also, through the experience that they had in the past 47 years, they have the proper values that make a society great. And let me just give you the list of values that I think if a people in a society have, and if their state represents those values as well, is basically ideal for maximum growth in a society. Okay, so these are, and you could basically summarize all of these as classical liberal values or enlightenment values or Western values or the modern republican tradition. It has different names, right? So these are separation of powers, secularism, representative democracy, free speech or free expression, free trade, free markets, respect for fundamental human rights, property rights, respect for the scientific method, freedom of assembly, respect for rule of law, civic nationalism, individualism or individual liberty, equality under the law. These are the values that are very common in a society. And if the state also represents those values, that's a society that's going to do well.
Okay, next I've got two questions that were given to me in the chat. First, how long for us to get rid of the US, I'm sorry, to get rid of the regime?
Wait, the question is how long is it going to take for us to get rid of the regime?
How long could it take for the US to get rid of the regime?
Okay, the US is not going to get rid of the regime. The Iranian people are going to get rid of the regime. Okay, this is an Iranian revolution. This is not an American revolution. It's not an Israeli revolution. The Iranian people are going to get rid of the regime. I don't know when. No one knows when. Anybody who comes with a prediction, you know, tell them to stop, right? Nobody knows when. I just know it will happen. I know it will happen because the Iranian people are more determined than ever, and the regime is weaker than ever before, and this cannot last. This cannot last. And if the United States doesn't help, the Iranian people will topple this regime. It's going to take longer, and it's going to be very much more costly. If the United States does help, it will still be the Iranian people who end up toppling the regime. But however, because of US help or because of Israel's help, it's going to happen faster and the cost is going to be a lot lower, the cost in lives. Many thousands of less people will die, many thousands of people's lives, Iranians' lives will be saved. And also, by the way, not just Iranians, Israeli lives and other people from around the world will be saved if they help, right? But the reason why the United States or Israel cannot do regime change is because they cannot or would not put boots on the ground. You cannot do regime change just with aerial support. You need boots on the ground. You need to actually go and capture government institutions. You need to actually go and because no matter how many air bombardments you do from the air, it doesn't matter. The institutions that make the Islamic Republic, they could repair that, they could redo that, they go underground, all of that could come back. For a regime change to happen, somebody needs to show up and take over government institutions and everything that makes the Islamic Republic. And United States will not put, so Israel is missing military ability to put boots on the ground, and United States is missing political capital to put boots on the ground. So United States can put boots on the ground from a military perspective, but it cannot put boots on the ground in Iran from an political perspective. It doesn't have enough political capital. The American people would not stand for United States putting boots on the ground in Iran. And honestly, that's a good thing. We don't even want that. Like the Iranian people don't want any boots on the ground, unless it's like a, I don't know, like a Mossad or like a commando operation, like a couple of individuals that go in and take someone else. They don't want like a ground invasion. That's not what the Iranian people are hoping for. Israel doesn't have enough manpower to have boots on the ground. Iran is very big. Iran is not a neighbor to Israel. It's not like Lebanon. It's not like Gaza. It's not like Syria. And the only boots on the ground that Israel has in Iran is the Iranian Mossad agents, which are like, it's not like an invasion. It's basically the people who are, these are like special operations and stuff like that, right? But the boots on the ground that, so given that for regime change, you need boots on the ground, the only boots on the ground that you could rely on are the Iranian people that are already there. And given that the vast majority of the Iranian people want the regime change, all you need to do is basically remove some obstacles from their way and just let the Iranian people do the regime change themselves. So that's regarding who does the regime change, but also with regards to when, nobody knows. And anybody who gives you a prediction, they're just guessing, and you shouldn't take it seriously. It could be anything. I'm not even going to give you a window. I'm not even going to guess. But all I know is that this is a tree that is falling. We're swinging the axe at the tree. We don't know which swing is going to take it down, but all we know is that if we keep swinging, it will come down.
Okay, thank you. The second question says, across multiple news sites, it has been highlighted that CENTCOM are conducting a multi-day aerial readiness exercise in the Middle East. The purpose is to, quote, demonstrate and test the ability to deploy, disperse, and sustain combat air power across the region. How significant do you think this is in the context of an attack on Iran?
It suggests that an attack might come later than some people anticipate, because it seems like they're basically gathering information and testing for everything. But I think Jeffrey would have a much better answer to this than I would. Jeffrey, do you have any
So
information on this?
that kind of training is one indicator that one might use to kind of game whether or not where we're leading, striking, not striking. For instance, when we went and did the yoinkening regarding Maduro, I mean, they trained for that for like a month, right? So, I mean, it's definitely a positive indicator.
His
I
follow-up was, is this, do you think, direct preparation for a strike or a smokescreen for surprise attack?
Could be either, both.
And Jeffrey, also, does this also suggest that this might take longer than some people are hoping for, because of all the preparation might take longer?
So remember in a lot of the other responses, we talked about how it's a complex adaptive system that's fluid and ever changing, and actors engage in competitive adaptation. So it's not just the mullah regime in Iran that's currently occupying Iran. You also have other people like Putin's criminalized counterintelligence states sending in stuff to support the mullahs, Chaicoms, all these other sub-state transnational wackadoodles that the mullahs pulled in that are like butchering brave Persian protesters and resistance. So as that environment changes, so does the good guys' view of how to take apart this monster, right? So they're going to constantly modify their assessment on the fly. That's why it's called competitive adaptation. Both sides are trying to read the environment and the other actors as quickly and as accurately as possible.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Armin. Thanks for doing this. It's a real pleasure meeting you. I've been following Goldie's channel closely for about a month now during this revolution, and just a bit of background, it's meant a lot to me. I'm Project Vendetta. I wrote the Iranian Revolution song that Goldie plays. I'm an Iranian living in Australia. My parents and parts of my family fled Iran after the revolution. I was born in Thailand, and after they left, spent a like we moved to Australia after a year in Thailand, where I grew up in Sydney. Around the time of the revolution, my dad's uncle held a high ranking position within the regime and offered my dad a senior role. On his very first night being introduced to that world, he saw the corruption and cruelty up close. Like on his first night there, for example, there were some regime officials and they were teasing and mocking some prisoners night before the execution. So, because of that, he turned down a very high paying job and chose to leave instead, starting from scratch overseas. His first job in Australia was literally starting from scratch driving taxis, and then he went to working in markets. I'm also a full stack web developer, and I'd like to genuinely help wherever I can. I know your friend Petipto is working on the Nazi list website, from what I gather. I'd love to connect with him to be able to help fix bugs, maybe help build and maintain a strong English version that works well in the West, because I'd like to help Nazi list along. I've also heard there may be regime officials stalking some Australian Iranians from recent news. I just want to learn my skills and collaborate if I can make myself useful.
Yeah, so the website is it back home because I know the website was under attack. But there's a way. Did you see on the show we showed that there's a place on the website where you could offer help. Did you see that when we showed that on the show?
Yes, but when I went to click on it, literally where I'm from in Australia, that feature is disabled. Well, like not disabled, but there was a bug where it would reset the page and not send through my message.
So did you try to contact them and talk to them
Yeah,
about that?
yeah, I tried to collaborate. The thing is, I've got my bachelor in computer science and cybersecurity as well, so I can great help with security on the website too, and to fight
Okay.
back against the attackers.
Can you send me your email and on school and I will you know give it to Petito because
Absolutely.
I
I'll type it in chat for you right now. So
okay.
project dot and data 85@gmail.com.
Can you also introduce yourself, write something so I could just copy and paste and send to Petito regarding what you can offer?
As a forewarning, here on the school chat platform, you have very limited character amount. I don't know what the actual number is. I'm going to say probably around 200, and it will just totally delete your message. So be aware of that when you go to type something into the chat that you very well may lose it. So just be careful.
No worries. Okay, well, I've compiled a message that you can send on to Petito, something like this. Oh, it's more than 280 characters. Oops.
Okay.
I'll see if I can split it into, hang on.
All right. Don't worry. We could move to. I already sent your email. Hold on. I already sent your email to Petito, and then I could keep an eye on the chat,
There
and
we go,
whatever you
got it.
send me, I will send. Oh,
Sorry, I sent it in chat.
okay.
Susie, will you clarify for me? You had raised your hand, but then Armin had called you chimed in for a second. Is that what you had for us, or do you have a question?
Oh, no, that was not what I had. And so what was I going to say? Okay, first of all, Armin, I mentioned to you the other day about my friend whose uncle was killed. So I'm organizing all the details on the back end. I'm going to get like pictures and a script for you guys to share. And then once that's finalized, I will let you know so that you guys can share that on the screen. They on the stream. They gave their permission and they're very thankful. Second of all, Armin, check your Telegram because I recently got hooked up with a Telegram channel, I guess you could say dedicated to revenge porn. And
What? Okay.
for people that we can not share these images, but let's just say some Sepah got Gaddafi'd. The main thing that I wanted to talk about, and we can nix this
This is
idea
great.
if it's too much of a my idea is a little bit of a maybe a moderation problem. So BT, you can feel free to cancel my idea if you want. But I don't know. I was thinking it might be kind of fun to hear if anyone here has been attending any demonstrations and if they have, what their experience has been like. I've been really enjoying going to demonstrations lately. I mean, it's very like I cry every time, but it's been good to connect to people. And I don't know, I have some funny stories. Like the reason why I now have these images that I spam Armin with is because I met this guy at the last demonstration last week, and he went up to me and he's like, "Are you Susanna from Atheist Republic?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I am." He goes, "Oh, cool, blah, blah, blah." And he was about to leave, and I was like, "Wait, can I like follow you on Instagram or something?" And he's like, "Yeah, you can, but I mean, I'm really radical. Like, are you sure?" He's like, "I'm kind of extreme. Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, it'll take a lot to scare me." So, and I met this other guy that was like so nice. He also recognized me from Atheist Republic, and actually I had met him before at a Nowruz market last year, and I like wanted to stay and chat with him, but he almost seemed like nervous, like he just wanted to say hi and then leave. And I'm like, "Wait, no, I want to be friends. Don't walk away." I don't know. So if it's too much of a pain to moderate, never mind, but I just thought it might be fun to hear about other people's experiences if they want to share.
I love that idea. Are we able to do it after we finish Armin's questions just to make sure he gets out in time and then do it towards the end? So far, I've only seen one person in the chat say that they even went, but I really like that. I really like that a lot. Okay, very good. Susie, that's so funny. Okay, so next we have Peter W.
So, oh, the first part of my question was, in Iran, do you think the like religious demographics would change so there'd be more Zoroastrians or more atheists?
Oh, way more atheists for sure. But like, well, let me. Okay, so in Iran, okay, let me just tell you what it is and what it's like in Iran when it comes to Zoroastrianism. A lot of people respect Zoroastrian symbols and Zoroastrianism as a religion, even if they're not technically Zoroastrian, right? So we have people, we have a minority who's Zoroastrian, and then we have the vast majority of people who use Zoroastrian symbols as patriotic symbols, as representation of their country, as representation of their ancient history, as symbols of nationalism, right? So when it comes to people who respect Zoroastrianism and use their symbols to represent their love for Iran, that is like that's a huge number, right? Like almost all patriots, right? But the minority, but the Zoroastrians who are very, and I think like I don't think Zoroastrians want. I'm not sure about it, but don't quote me on this, okay? I don't think Zoroastrians want people to convert to Zoroastrian. I think they just want to not lose the ones they already have because the regime discriminates against them so much that so many of them are forced to convert to Islam just so that they could actually go to the university that they want and actually be able to get the jobs that they want. So many Zoroastrians just convert to Islam, and I think that the Zoroastrians would just be satisfied with that stopping. They're not like evangelizing. They're not going out and be like, "Hey, people convert to Zoroastrianism." I don't think that that's part of their thing. Some people convert to Zoroastrianism, but given how much it's just easy not to just to enjoy Zoroastrianism without converting to it, then I think most people just enjoy it without converting to it. When it comes to atheists, we have self-declared atheists and then we have actual atheists. So I think the people in Iran, like the latest poll that I saw from a couple of years ago, and I think it's much higher right now, the people who, if I remember correctly, the people who identify as atheists is like 8% or something. But the people who are atheists without actually declaring themselves as atheists is 20%. Basically, people who don't believe in God, even if they don't call themselves an atheist, they're still an atheist because they don't believe in God. But the highest demographic when it comes to religious beliefs in Iran are nuns. Nuns are basically people who don't have a religion. They might still believe in a God. I think that, yeah, I think they are the highest number is, I'm not saying it's the majority, but it's the highest number. People who do believe in a God but don't have any religion. Like they're not Muslim, they're not Christian, they're not Jewish, they're not Zoroastrian, they're not anything, but they do still believe in a God. That is that, no, not agnostic, guys. They do believe in a God, right? But they just have no religion. So that is number, no, not a deist. They're called nuns, guys. Agnostic is not a okay. Deist is the type of God you believe in. When somebody is a deist or not is not about whether a deist is somebody who believes in a God that is basically hands off. a hands-off God. That's the God that you believe in. But when I say nuns, I'm not talking about the type of God they believe in. They might believe in an involved God. So, for example, if you pray to God, then you're not a deist, because a deist considers praying to be useless because God is not involved. If you believe in miracles, for example, you're not a deist. So many of these nuns, they pray. They sometimes like, oh God, do this for me. They're not Muslim, they're not Christian, they're not Hindu, they're not Zoroastrian, they're not Jewish, but they pray. So that God is not a deistic God because that's an involved God. But so we just call them nuns, like with no religion. That's what they call. So, guys, the agnostic, atheist, deist, pantheist, these are all different words that have different meanings. But nuns is basically somebody who doesn't have a religion. And nun could be not nun as in like the nun that in a church, nun as in non-religious, right? And nun could be an atheist, and none could be a pantheist, and none could be a deist, and none could be an agnostic, and none could also believe in a God that is an involved God that does miracles and answer prayers. But that nuns is the highest demographic of religious beliefs in Iran. Does that answer your question, by the way?
Yeah, but
Okay.
isn't apostasy illegal in Iran? Like people leaving Islam?
Yeah, but yeah, it is. But good luck executing 40 million people,
Yeah.
because more than half of the population, like close to half of the population of Iran, has left Islam. Right. So what are you going to do with that?
So, but there might be more people who will do when it's no longer illegal.